Hey everyone, it's Liz from Thrust Flight. I'm the chief flight instructor here, and today I'm with Jarrod.
Hey guys, I'm Jarrod Roberts. I'm an instructor here at Thrust Flight and an airline pilot.
And today we're going to talk about the top mistakes flight instructors make. I think one of the first ones that come to mind for me is they do too much for their student, right? Top mistake I see from new hired instructors or even experienced instructors sometimes, whether it's boredom or they just forget, I shouldn't be doing the things, right? So programming autopilot, programming radio frequencies, putting in squawk codes, making the radio calls, right? Not that they do every single one every single time, but the student needs to work on managing all the tasks and being able to prioritize flying versus communicating and really being able to increase the saturation level that they can handle, right? And if the instructor is always offloading some of that, they never get the chance to.
Yeah, you should be able to appropriately delegate tasks, but you should also be able to do everything yourself if the situation is necessary. So it's not just being an instructor, but being a PIC, right? If you didn't know, you're gonna be the PIC. So get ready for that and everything that entails. Another mistake kind of common is forgetting your FOIs or not applying those FOIs, right? And those things don't go away when the check ride's over. That's really how you should be teaching, and it almost seems like instructors sometimes need to be reminded, hey, primacy is important or intensity in your training is important, so don't be a lump on a log and first learned, best learned, all that kind of stuff. So those don't go away. Keep doing those.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would say another top mistake from flight instructors is they make it about them and not about the student, right? So this is when we hear about padding logbooks. This is when we hear about milking students for hours, right? Or I would say you could still give quality training, quality, organized, efficient. You're not abusing the hours, but it's still about you, because you're not invested in that student. I'm not trying to motivate them onto the next step, or I'm not connecting it to their goals, right?
Right.
And really accomplishing what they're hoping to get out of the flight training. Because you think I could take somebody through an entire private pilot program and never teach them how to fuel their own airplane or how to park their own airplane, or right? And this person may have the goal of becoming the aircraft owner or renting from a club, or right, that it's not always going to be your flight school environment that has a truck for fuel. So anyways, I think a top mistake from flight instructors, or how to be a better flight instructor rather, is remembering it's always about the student, right? It's not about you.
Yep, it is not about you, and you'll get the hours anyway. Don't milk some poor student for that. Think about how that you would feel if somebody did that to you, right? Or maybe that did happen to you. It's
you don't have to pay it forward with that.
Right, yeah, no paying it forward necessary there. And do not pad the logbook. These things get vetted. When you get to the airlines, they go through it and they'll ask you questions about it, and you should know where those hours came from and have a good explanation for them. So don't do that.
Definitely. I've heard of instructors literally flying to the ceilings of their aircraft, right? Because it was hot down low, or what a waste of your students' time. Oh, such a mistake.
Well, it must have had to be really hot for you to go up there.
Right.
That is not necessary.
I think another top mistake that flight instructors are prone to making is putting the work on the student in the pre-briefs and the post-briefs. Not that a student shouldn't come prepared or have responsibility in those two action items, right? But that one, right, the flight instructor is responsible for making sure those two activities happen. There is a pre-brief, what we're doing before we're in the airplane today. There is a debrief, right? What we accomplished, what we need to still work on, right? And how we're planning for the next lesson. And one of my least favorite things I see from instructors is when they just ask the student, so how do you think it went today? There's times for that, but not every lesson. That's not how every debrief starts, right? Is the student's assessment of it. At some point, they need your professional assessment because they are the student. They have not done some of these things, right?
Right, absolutely. Yeah, the appropriate time to ask that would be when you're trying to get the student to make a self-critique, right? When you want to see where their mind's at or something like that. But that is not how the beginning of every debrief should sound. As an instructor, you should have a plan. When you're building your lesson plan, some people even put minutes in there. I mean, that's a little much for me, but how much time am I going to spend debriefing? How much time am I going to spend the brief and the flight and the pre-flight and all that stuff? Whatever you need to do to stay organized, to make sure that you always give that student that debrief, just so important to their learning. and even getting them a written debrief so that they can take it home and share fly their mistakes.
Yeah, I'd say that's an excellent point that you called out, right? A top mistake from flight instructors, and I'm guilty of it, is only providing verbal debriefs to students. What a disservice, right?
Yeah.
The student can gain so much out of a written debrief that they can go back and read through or reflect on, or maybe time passes in between their lessons and they're flying with somebody else, or they don't recall what occurred, right? A written debrief can be such a tool for a student. It's just something that would only be able to come from the flight instructor.
Absolutely, yeah. Luckily, we've got the
here at our
digital
school.
program, so you can always go back and relive your greatest mistakes.
And triumphs.
Or triumphs, yeah. It goes both ways.
Definitely.
But yeah, just the main thing is just to come with a plan. You know, you should be running the show, and that starts with your check ride. You should come with a plan of action to every lesson and allot time to debrief your student, because it's just so vital for their learning.
Yeah.
When I see on the on a lot of the 2-year flights, which is a brand new CFI, right? They haven't done their check ride yet. They're about to go. Literally, the flight right before their check ride is when to take controls, because they haven't had a student yet. They don't know, necessarily what that line is, and it is kind of a fine line, because getting controls taken from you is not fun.
Yeah.
It's kind of soul crushing, but you have to do it sometimes. So. We'll be on the 2-year sign-offs, and there will be a part where one of us flies and we expect the student to take controls or not take controls. The main idea there is coach first, and then if they're not listening, take controls as appropriate.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I could almost list both. The top mistake is intervening too early or not intervening early enough, as sometimes the aircraft proves afterwards, right?
Yep.
But let's talk about not intervening too early, right?
Yeah.
It could either be my student is performing a task, they make a mistake, and I don't even give them the opportunity to realize their own mistake. I'm immediately jumping on them and we're making a correction, and like I said, they never get the chance to realize how the error occurred. Or it could be on the controls. If I'm flying with my student or I'm taking controls before they were truly needed to be exchanged, then it's not giving the student the maximum learning on that lesson.
Right, yeah. You gotta kind of let them make some mistakes appropriately, but
yes,
that's
not so far that we're coming back with a damaged aircraft or hurt our people, right?
If they're to a point where you're coaching them, you should be kind of coming off the coaching as you go, and you're building up to the point where you sit there like this the whole time. And when you have that flight where you're like this the whole time and you don't say anything, that's kind of when you know they're ready for solo or they're ready for check ride or something, because it's like you're not even there. So it's like, why am I here?
Intervention was not necessary. It didn't mean it was mistake-free. It meant intervention was not necessary. They recognized and corrected the mistakes that occurred.
Exactly, but they will retain those mistakes if you let them make them and they see them, because of intensity, right?
Yes.
So if you just tell them and correct them every time, they'll never remember what they did wrong. So.
I think another top mistake that instructors are prone to make is not preparing for the lesson. As they gain experience, it seems to be something that instructors do less and less of per day per student, right? And part of that I think is natural. I have taught aerodynamics 80 times now. I need less prep time before teaching it the next time.
Sure.
But I think the preparation still is necessary when I think about organizing my students' program, right? Should we do ground? If we do ground, what topics, right? Should we be flying right now, or should we be switching that instead of this is what we were booked for, or, well, I didn't think ahead to change that, right?
Yeah. There's a really good way to do that. It's making your lesson plans. And then I'm guilty of not bringing my lesson plans to every single lesson, of course, but you bring them to your check ride, and you should have at that point pretty much a lesson for everything, right? If you go through your PTS or your ACS for whatever your student's doing, literally every line item is its own lesson pretty much, and you should have those as your lessons. If you go to your check ride without them, and you get asked that thing, then you're showing up unprepared, right? So when you actually go to instruct, you should still have those lessons, and until you get really, really comfortable teaching it, you should have that lesson plan open at all times. Yeah. Because no mental outlines, right?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of new instructors try and replicate the instructor they love the most, and that guy didn't have to use the lesson plan in front of him, but it's based on experience level, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So. When I was instructing, instructing a lot, you wouldn't have even known I was in the airplane. My student was on there the whole time, and as long as it wasn't an issue to safety, I would let them drown on the radio as their experience, not on their first one.
No.
But as they gain experience, I'd let them get through it, because then that gets them, practicing more and kind of lights the fire under them. But yeah, you wouldn't even have known I was there. I've heard instructors where I hear the instructor all day, every day, and I'm like, are you soloing today? Like, where's your student?
Yes.
So let the student use the radios. It's good practice for them, and they need to. I got a good one.
Okay.
Saying I don't know. or not saying I don't know would be the mistake.
Okay, I was like, I do that. I say I don't know.
Not saying I don't know is the mistake. I kind of did it Jeopardy format, I guess. What is I don't know? I mean, everybody's had that instructor where you ask them a question and they give you the answer that's going to just shut you up, and it's not necessarily the right answer. They just feel like they have a duty to answer the question, right?
Or worse, they guess, right?
Guess,
and give you totally wrong info.
Yeah.
But they feel like, oh, I'm the instructor. Something must come out of my mouth to satisfy your question.
Right, and you get that pressure from the student too, that you're like, oh my God, I'm supposed to be instructing them and I don't know the answer. That's okay though, right? We're talking all of aviation.
Yeah.
You will not know every answer to every question that is ever asked of you. So get used to saying, I don't know.
Yep.
I say it a lot.
But follow up.
A lot.
Right? Follow up with the student and find the answer.
Yeah, find the answer,
Don't just
of course.
drop it. Oh, I don't know. So you'll never know.
You're on your own.
Right.
Yep, look it up. You should know where to look it up by that point.
But I think that's a good summary of some top mistakes flight instructors make.
Yeah.
So hopefully it helps you choose a flight instructor a little bit better, or maybe helps you become a better flight instructor. If you enjoyed the video today, or if you've got questions, leave us a comment. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos.
See you next time.